Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim. I'm your host. You're watching Talking Vintage Vendor Corner, brought to you by Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot, located at 502 West Brennan Road, Lakeland, Florida, 33813. This is show number 26. If you're ever in the area, please stop by and check us out at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot. What is Talking Vintage Vendor Corner? It started out as a show for our customers here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot, letting them know what was going on at the shop and stuff like that. We had a segment in the show that was called Vendor Corner, and we were trying to help other vendors out with different comments, questions, and concerns, and it just blossomed into its own show. This is the only place you can check it out. It's here on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, under the playlist Vendor Corner. So there you go. So normally there's two of us. I'm Jim. I'm the owner and also a vendor here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot. My buddy Warren normally joins me too, and he's just a vendor here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot. Okay, so we're going to talk about some different stuff today. We've been doing this for the past couple shows. This is absolutely the last show that we're going to do. Well, not the last show in a row that we are going to do, where we're picking our topics from the back. These are blind topics for us to discuss, and I'm just going to pick them out of the bag. Next week, I've been working on a brand new segment, not next week, but in 2 weeks, because we come on every other Sunday night at 8 p.m. So come back in 2 weeks. I've been working on a brand new segment. I asked vendors what they wanted to change about their store. The one thing if they could change, they would change about their store. And I think that's going to be a real good show. So we'll see that show in 2 weeks. Vendor Corner number 27. Oh yeah, this was a big topic that I read a lot about recently. What do you do when you have an owner that constantly changes the rules? Would you even consider suing? So I'm an owner. I try not to change the rules. I try to go by our contract. So there's not a lot of rule changes. There are some things that come up every now and then. You know, you can't please everybody all the time. So there are some different things. But if I was in somebody else's shoes, and I was a vendor before I was an owner, would I consider suing? I mean, what are you going to sue for? Number one, I mean, you're going to drag them to court and you're going to pay money to lawyers. The lawyers are going to make money. You're probably not. What are you going to sue for? I mean, you could sue for breach of contract, but what would you get if they actually breached the contract? So, you know, be very careful. You know, the discussion went into a whole bunch of different directions about different things. And, yeah, just, you know, if it doesn't please you to be there, then move out. If you've got an owner that's changing the rules all the time and you don't like it, then just go ahead and move out. That's the best thing that you could do. I wouldn't consider suing anybody, not just because I'm an owner, just because, yeah, I don't know what you're going to get if you do. Surely they're going to make you leave. So, and, you know, I'm sure they can do that contractually for no reason at all, really. So, yeah, what would be the benefit of doing that? And if you are in that situation, I feel bad for you if your owner's changing rules all the time and you dislike it. Okay. Oh, whoa. Here's a good one. This was a recent one. How long does it take to show profit when you're starting out? That's a very good question. I mean, it's going to depend on the market you're in, the shop you're in, the mall you're in. Really, you're not going to... Unless you have some fantastic stuff and some fantastic pricing, it's going to take you a couple months to figure it out. You're going to have to figure out your pricing, you know, what you can get for certain items, and that's a hard thing to do. A lot of people start out, they go on Google, they see, you know, they see Mickey here, and they look him up, and he's selling, or he's listed for $25. But that's not what he's selling for. When you do Google Lens, it's just going to show you different platforms that have that item and what people are asking for him. Well, that may just be too much for him. If you use eBay, you can refine your search. You can see what it's sold, and it'll tell you the frequency too. So if there's only one sold, that's like, I think, 90-day window. You're seeing one sold in the last 90 days worldwide. You know, and you got to think, well, you know, I'm in a local market here. You know, they got $30 for him, but only one sold, so it doesn't sell readily. The sell-through rate is very low for it, and they got 30, but I'm just going to go ahead and sell mine cheaper or whatever. But you got to be able to price it. So depending on how you price and what you have, that's when you're going to start turning profit. I would think within the first couple 3 months, you should know whether you're going to be making money or not. You can ask other vendors, ask your shop owner to help you out too. Okay, here we go. We got another one here. Do canister sets still sell? Well, here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot, they do. Now, they need to be complete and they need to be in good shape. People are not going to come in and buy a ceramic canister set that's got chips all over it, or a one that has stains all over it, or like a tin one that's super rusty. They're not going to do that. But canister sets still sell. At least they do here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot. All right, we got a couple more here. I'm going to pull them all out and get rid of the bag, because next week, like I said, we've got a good topic of discussion. We won't need these little ones here. Entire store sale. Oh yeah, I read somebody had posted out there that their store will put the entire store on sale, and that they have to just kind of live with that. Well, I think that should be a contractual issue. I know here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot, Decades has the right to take 10% off any item that is regularly priced. So that means if somebody has put a sale tag on it or marked it down, we can't do that. But we have the right to do that. So we use that for negotiation purposes. If somebody comes up and they say, well, do the vendors negotiate? We say for the most part, no. If the vendor's here in the store, we'll allow them to talk to them. They can work something out with that particular vendor. But we don't just blanket it out. We don't have a sale. We have sales, but we ask the vendors to put their items on sale, pick their percentage off or whatever, and we do that booth wide with the exclusions of a markdown item or a red tagged item. But they don't have to participate in that. So we never here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot do a blanket 10% off store wide. Well, I take that back, because we do our 10/20 events. Let me explain those to you. Those are usually at night, like we have a holiday open house, and then we have an anniversary open house, and it is 10% off everything that is regularly priced. But again, it's in the contract, so I'm not springing anything on anybody. It's just for a couple hours. 10% off everything that is regularly priced, 20% back in the form of Decades dollars that the customer can use at a future purchase. Now, the 10% does come off the item, and that's coming from the vendor. Again, we have it in the contract that we can do that. And then the 20% back to the customer comes from the shop. So it's a real good deal for our customers. It's a high volume event. We sell a lot of items in a short period of time, and it's generally pretty good. Now, the shop takes a hit on it because the shop only collects 12% of the total sales from any particular item. And then, of course, we pay credit card fees here at the shop, not the vendors. So you can take the 3 or the 4% off of that 12, and we're down about 8. And then the shop is giving away 20%, so the shop is taking a 12% hit on each particular item. But again, it's a lot of sales in a short amount of time. It's a really good event. It gets a lot of people in the shop, and that's why we do it. That's why the shop does it. But again, the shop, we don't normally have any kind of a sale except for that 10/20 event, where we just say blanketed, everything's 10% off. We hand out discount cards to customers to have them return. They're dated. It gives them about usually 30 to 60 days that they can bring that card back, and it will give them 10% off their total purchase as long as the items are regularly priced. Again, for a vendor here at Decades Reclaim Vintage Depot, all they have to do is mark something down. There's ways that they have to mark it down or put it on sale with a red tag, and that will stop any percentage given off. Even at the 10/20 event, it would stop the 10%. The customer would still get the 20% back. Wow, there you go. That was a big topic there. Let's go. We've got a couple more left. I don't want to make this show too long. Does anyone use Instagram or Facebook Marketplace to attract people to your booth? Oh, there's quite a few here at Decades that do that, quite a few that don't. It's a fantastic thing. There's a couple of us that are probably the top vendors, and we call it the hustle. When we do that, we put stuff up on Marketplace. We have people come in and pick it up and purchase it here. And it's really cool because a lot of times if people don't know where we're at, they come to the shop, they shop around, and they buy other stuff as well. Now, it does happen on occasion that somebody comes in to buy your item and they decide to purchase something else, and it's not yours, it's somebody else's. And I mean, that does happen, and it's not the best of things, but it does happen, and it's bringing people into the store most of the time that have never been here before. Okay, I got 2 left. Oh, maybe 1 left if I can't retrieve this one. Here we go. All right, 2 left. Let's do these real quick because we're running at 10 minutes. All right, there. Yeah, somebody said malls in their area are stopped or have gone cashless. We haven't seen that trend here in Central Florida. Here at Decades Reclaimed Vintage Depot, I don't think we'll go cashless because cash gives us a higher yield as far as that 12% I told you about goes. We don't have to pay credit card fees on cash. So I don't think we're going to go cashless. I don't see that happening in our market around here anywhere. I don't think anybody's even talking about that. All right, last one. This is kind of funny. This is back to the discounts. How much of a discount should I do on sales? The higher you do, the more customers you're going to attract. So I told you here at Decades Reclaimed Vintage Depot, we do sales and we allow our vendors to pick their percentage off. The vendors that are doing 50, even 75% off are going to do more business in the way of sales. I don't, necessarily know if it's dollar amount. I think we've done some comparisons before, and even during a sale period, the highest dollar amount goes to the people who have the biggest percentage off. But it's up to you. I have talked about before that I purchase at 30%. If an item is $90, I'm going to pay $30 for it because it costs me $30 to sell it. So $30 to buy the item, $30 to sell the item, and then a day I make $30. Well, that $30 to sell the item, that kind of includes if I have to put it on sale. And sometimes you just put it on sale to get rid of it and you just start over again. So I have done 75% off on different ones. I've done 50. I generally don't go too much below 50. I think I've done 25 just when I've had a bunch of new stock in. I've done a 25%, but I'm not going to do 10 and I'm not going to do 15. I just don't think it grabs people's attention and gets them in your booth and gets them into that buying mode. I know that when we are at 75% and vendors at 75% or 50%, there's a lot of people purchasing items probably that they don't necessarily need. And, it just becomes a thing. People come up to the counter and every single item that they have they have taken from a booth that it's 50% or above, every single item. So they're shopping the sale is what I'm saying. So there you go. So make sure that you do a percentage that is going to get people to shop your booth. Well, that's it for tonight. I'm Jim. I'm your host. You've been watching Talking Vintage Vendor Corner, brought to you by Decades Reclaimed Vintage Depot, 502 West Brennan Road, Lakeland, Florida, 33813. If you're ever in Central Florida, please stop by and say hello. Say, hey, I see you guys on YouTube, and I just want to stop in and say, hey. If that's all you do, that's great. If you don't even want to shop around, that's great too. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Remember, I got a big show coming up. I talked to a bunch of vendors, and I asked them to tell me the one thing they would change in their shop to make it better. So that's going to be our next show. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Again, thank you very much. Have a great evening. Yeah, you got to press the button, actually, to make it go off. This is funny.